soon to be known as Earth's mightiest hero.
What would happen if an unstoppable force meets something absolutely unrelenting, something that has the mind of a god, but the instability of a ticking bomb? The Marvel Universe has a wide variety of events where we have seen the best being pitted against the best, and thus, a clash between Hulk and Sentry is definitely worth exploring. With the introduction of the Sentry in the MCU, there's a chance that the MCU might have bitten more than they could chew, because fans of the comic books are well aware of the uncontrollable potential this rather unstable superhero is known for. So, let's go deep into the Marvel lore and explore the fate of Hulk in a scenario where Hulk is pitted against Sentry in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. The Sentry against Marvel's best. Sentry's powers are considered to be equivalent to the energy of 1 million exploding suns. But that's not all, considering that this superhero can be difficult to go against at his peak. For any of our favorite Marvel heroes, Sentry has been known to fight cosmic-level beings and reduce them to absolute nothing during his battles with them. Even gods have been thrown around like mere beings in fights against him. Over the years, the complex personality issue of the character has paved the way to a variety of events, wherein we could see the Sentry has bested the finest and the strongest of the world's mightiest heroes. And that might just be the most concerning factor when it comes to the status of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. One of the best examples of the true levels of Sentry's powers is when he was pitted against Ares, the Greek god of war. This is in the narrative where Norman Osborn uses his own Avengers to lay a siege on Asgard, and Sentry joins his team and leads them as they almost decimate Thor's homeland. The real Avengers had arrived on the scene to go against them, and Ares had also managed to take his part in saving the land. He almost ended up killing Norman Osborn by taking off his head before Sentry intervened. But right when it felt like it was going to be one of the most essential battles in Marvel history, a god has been pitted against someone who is considered equivalent to having godlike abilities. It was over in a matter of seconds. A quick and decisive ending to the battle saw Sentry tear Ares into two halves in front of the Avengers, reducing him to absolute nothing. Yes, that was probably one of the most brutal kills in Marvel history, and the fear was visible in the eyes of the other Avengers, as they saw one of their own being reduced to mere blood and bones. The Void had taken over Sentry, and it was entirely on the Avengers to pull him back into Sentry, as he continued to decimate Asgard completely. Thor leads the fight against him, and the first chance he gets, he ends up beating him to such a level that Sentry begins begging for death. Thor had been witnessing his homeland being destroyed for a while now, and he readily obliged Sentry's request as he launched a blast of lightning straight at Sentry, reducing him to mere charred remains. Yes, that's quite the complicated result because at one point, Sentry killed a god, and right then, he was also reduced to ashes by the god of thunder. But the story doesn't end there, because everyone knew about the untapped potential of the troubled Marvel hero, and they decided to use it to their benefit by resurrecting him in an ark where he was infused with the celestial death seed and made into the death horseman of the 4 horsemen of Apocalypse. The last time Thor killed him off was in the Void, and even though the Void is considered the ultimate being and weapon against anyone, Thor managed to kill it. But this time, Sentry had returned in a much more stable form, without the burden of the Void anymore, and it was almost as if he was in the ultimate condition. Sentry decided to show his capabilities to Thor. Even though we think of Sentry as something like the Superman of Marvel, Bob Reynolds had unlocked the ability that allowed him to have molecular control of the world. This ability allowed him to completely change reality, something even the Marvel gods couldn't. So it's quite clear that the Sentry was finally at a stage of his powers, that he had become completely untouchable. Even though he was in full control, Death Seed had its form of corruption in his mind, as he managed to beat up Thor to a pulp while reminiscing about their last interaction, which led to him being reduced to death. But Sentry doesn't kill Thor because he realizes Thor had his reasons for attacking him at that time, and instead, he just gives him a small taste of his full powers. And if you go through the pages of this particular arc, it's clear that he won't have had much trouble killing Thor forever. Thankfully, the Void wasn't at bay, or else we might have seen the destruction of Earth at such a level of this hero's powers. Now, we have a good idea about the true potential of this hero, and it makes sense to wonder about the challenge he would bring to the table in a scenario where Marvel's finest end up facing him as an opponent. Our favorite heroes like Iron Man or Spider-Man could be squashed like mere bugs by this Omega-level threat. But one of the Avengers, someone who has had a similar battle with the Self, might have a chance against Sentry. Sentry versus Hulk, when gods collide. Hulk is considered one of the greatest heroes in the Marvel lore, and one of the major facts that justifies this is that he was able to wield the Infinity Gauntlet and use it to undo the work of Thanos and still survive. This behemoth is the perfect yardstick for power in the Marvel Universe to prove the true potential of Sentry. Unlike most other heroes or Avengers, we have only witnessed that the Hulk stands limitless in his powers, and he has been able to go against almost any opponent. So, whenever a character can match or even subdue the Hulk, it signals the staggering power level. And that's right where we can bring in Sentry, somebody who has had quite a few encounters with Hulk, with each of these particular events paving the way for some big decisions to indicate the fate of the Marvel Universe in the hands of Sentry. One of the first storylines one has to discuss when discussing moments where these two were pitted against each other is the arc of World War Hulk. This comic follows the arc of Hulk and makes for one of the most pivotal moments in his narrative. And over the years, fans have been waiting for it to be adapted in the MCU as an individual project. We follow the Illuminati, a council of some of the most brilliant and powerful heroes, including the likes of Iron Man, Mr. Fantastic, Black Bolt, and Doctor Strange. As they conclude that the Hulk poses a great threat to Earth, they manage to lure him into a spacecraft and send him to deep space, hoping he will end up in an uninhabited world and wreak havoc there. But it turns out that it was the worst possible thing that could have been done to this Avenger, as he ended up crash landing into the war-torn world of Sakaar, where he was enslaved and reduced to a gladiator who fought against other beings. Eventually, he gains allies, becomes a revolutionary on this planet, and manages to overthrow the tyrant Red King to become the savior Sakaar had been waiting for. Hulk starts a life here after he meets his wife, Kyra, the Old Strong, when she becomes pregnant with his child. And it is almost as if the Hulk had found his place away from the world that had reduced him to a mere monster. But just when it felt like everything was peaceful, the very ship that was used to send Hulk away ended up exploding, decimating the capital city and also killing Kyra, along with his unborn child. Enraged by the loss and heartbreak, Hulk starts believing that it was the Illuminati who had triggered the explosion to kill him. So, Hulk declares war on Earth. Hulk and his allies return to Earth to exact revenge on all the superheroes responsible for destroying his life. And he has no intention of talking it out. He wanted to wreak havoc, something that the Illuminati initially feared. The group goes to stop him, and Hulk bests each and every one of them, one by one, with Doctor Strange and Iron Man completely failing to control the Hulk in his angriest state. Now, the one event that proves that the Hulk had gone to a whole new level with his powers was that he even managed to put down Black Bolt without much trouble. Yes, what the world witnessed at this point was the complete reversal in power dynamics, as each and every one of these superheroes was reduced to nothing. These superheroes had once considered him to be an enemy and discarded him. Finally, Sentry arrives on the scene, and even though he hesitates to unleash his true powers, fearing that it might open up the gates for the Void, realizing that it isn't going to be easy to deal with the Hulk, he goes all in, but so does Hulk. And thus, for the first time since his return to Earth, Hulk faces someone equal. And absolute chaos ensues as the two level entire city blocks. Ultimately, the two end up reducing each other to their mere human selves, and we end up witnessing two broken men wield godlike powers as they try to contain the monsters they hold inside them. Yes, the story goes into a circumstance where we can see that these two titans were equal to each other in terms of their prowess. However, an alternate version of this battle, revealed by a Marvel editor, has some clarification regarding this battle, and that completely changes what we saw in World War Hulk, Issue 5. Even though this is a non-canonical arc, the original ending to the fight, according to Tom Brevoort's blog, Hulk descends upon the city. Sentry rises to meet him, trying to claim old friendship. The spikes surround the Sentry, hold him, and then the Hulk balls up his great fist and smashes and breaks every bone in the Sentry's body. Heroes are shocked. They've never seen the Hulk so powerful, even though that gives us a major answer regarding the battle between Hulk and Sentry. there's a lot more that has been left unanswered, because Sentry is someone who has often been shown to have no upper limit to his powers. However, another event that goes into an encounter between the two proves another situation that may arise, and this time, they were on completely different levels of their potential. In the Sentry Volume 2, Issue 3 arc by Paul Jenkins and John Romita Jr., the Void goes against a few of the Avengers, and in the case of the Hulk, the Void manages to shatter many of his bones with a lot of ease, once again putting us in the dilemma of figuring out the true potential of either Sentry or Hulk. So, can Sentry really kill Hulk? The events we have explored so far give us insights that lead to inconclusive results regarding a battle between Hulk and Sentry. The Void managed to break Hulk's bones easily, proving nothing because there's no way of seeing how much the Void's strength correlates with Sentry's, even though the Void could rip apart Ares with absolute ease. The same being was also killed by Null, who considered him one of his biggest threats. That might mean that it's the Void's particular abilities that managed to beat the Hulk, and thus it might just be a matter of what form Bob Reynolds has that can actually end up killing Hulk. It's important to notice how these two beings entirely depend on their matchup based on their specific incarnation's mental and emotional state. While the Void is considered the most dangerous individual in the Marvel Universe, Hulk's return after the events at Sakaar had him at his worst, and he could have easily destroyed the entire planet if the Sentry hadn't stopped him. So the alternate storyline might have put up a circumstance where the Hulk had almost defeated Sentry, but that was only because he could match Sentry's power. If it were a different day and a different circumstance, the Sentry's instability could have paved the way for him to reduce Hulk to absolutely nothing. And we are not even considering the arc where he had been resurrected and infused with the Celestial Death Seed, a circumstance that could have clearly resulted in Hulk's instant death in the hands of Sentry. So, the answer might not be very clear, but there is a chance that Sentry might topple the best of the Avengers and kill him. But it would take some difficulty to do that. Unlike most other Avengers, it would take some time to finish Hulk, because he could be equally difficult to face off with, easily, on any given day. What does Sentry's addition to the MCU mean for the heroes and villains? Talking about the future of Sentry's character in the MCU, particularly the upcoming Doomsday arc, Thunderbolts director Jake Schreier has stated, "There might be some stones or pebbles. I don't know how you want to rate your rocks. Look, you know the character that we're talking about, and you know that there's a level of power involved there that could have an impact going forward. I'm not making Doomsday, so I'm not privy to that. Yeah, that doesn't reveal much, but it's clear that the creators are considering that Sentry is not just one of those throwaway characters. It might not just be a one-and-done deal that has happened with a few of the other characters in the MCU before. Who can forget the excitement we had regarding Adam Warlock's appearance? The mighty hero was actually made into a joke, although there's still a chance to explore his true potential in the franchise's future. At a time when the fate of a number of heroes in the MCU is left hanging, with the upcoming Doomsday event, the addition of Sentry might prove to be quite fatal. It might become a key component that Doctor Doom might use against the heroes to destroy the multiverse. A clear example of this was given through the arc of the What If storyline from Mark Guggenheim, which explored the scenario that Norman Osborn's Dark Avengers and Sentry had failed with their plans of the siege of Asgard. Now, Sentry does not give up easily, and he goes against every one of the Earth's mightiest heroes, resulting in a brutal murder spree in which hardly anyone is left with a chance of surviving. While he manages to put his fist through Luke Cage, Captain America gets his head chopped off with his shield, and then Bullseye and Emma Frost are killed when Sentry discovers about his wife, Lindy's death. While going on this murder spree, he was slowly paving the way for the Void to gain full control, and ultimately, the cracks broke through. The Void was unleashed, and it brutally murdered the Dark Avengers. No one was able to survive his wrath, and soon, all the Avengers were killed, along with other heroes and even villains. And finally, the entire population of Earth was killed off. The Watcher witnessed Sentry end up using his darkest powers to engulf the whole planet, and it was then that Yatu admitted that it was barely minutes before he would consume the moon and whatever remained of the Marvel Universe. So yeah, quite clearly, the Sentry in his full potential can destroy the entire Marvel Universe easily, and hence, the MCU might be in a lot more trouble than they might have considered. But there's one saving grace for the MCU, as actor Louis Pullman mentions in his latest interview, talking about the arc of the character in the MCU with the events of Avengers, Doomsday, coming up shortly. Obviously, he's such an intricate character because, in many ways, His biggest Achilles heel is himself. So, what does the future look like for a guy like that? With that much power, but also with that kind of soft spot. It's a pretty big kind of weakness. But now we also know that he has this help with the Thunderbolts. They have taken him under their wing, and maybe there's a future there, when there's some sort of ability to control it, or some sort of safety net there. So, I'm curious to see what that might look like. Maybe there's a chance that the unlikely heroes of the Thunderbolt might have figured out the right means to bring some control to Bob's life, as they manage to work on themselves too. Each character in the Thunderbolts has had trouble comprehending who they are, as at some point or another, they exhibited the worst version of themselves and sought control. Maybe there lies the potential to prevent the threat that Sentry poses.
Worst guys.
Oh, no.
Who are you?
I'm Bob.
Marvelous verdict. According to Marvel's latest updates, there's a chance that we will see many one-time characters appear in future Avengers events, which could mean anything. While many of the heroes have retired and only a few of the original Avengers remain, there's a chance the remaining ones might make their way out through these events. Looking into Mark Ruffalo's contract, there's no clarity if he will stick around for future events. And even though it might be asking for too much to see the Hulk go against the Sentry, there's a chance that something like that pops up in the Secret Wars. But then, Sentry would have to prove himself a lot more to kill off one of the most beloved Marvel characters. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one, and be safe. Thanks, everyone.